All right, today we're going to break down a really clear framework from entrepreneur Alex Hormozy on how you can bank your very first $100,000. Now, this isn't some get-rich-quick scheme. It's about building a real foundation for actual financial security. So let's just dive right in.
So get this, Hormozy has had these massive financial wins in his life, including a $46 million exit from one of his companies. But he says that wasn't the moment he felt the wealthiest. Not even close. So you have to wonder, when did he?
The answer? It was this number right here, $100,000, cash, in the bank. He says that was the moment he felt the richest in his entire life. And why? Because it was the first time he could actually stop worrying about tomorrow, about rent and groceries and all those basic bills. And that gets us to the real heart of this entire plan, achieving what you might call financial escape velocity. See, this first 100K, it isn't for buying a fancy car or a watch, it's for buying freedom. It's the freedom to think beyond next month's bills. I mean, as Hormozy puts it, the stress of just trying to survive day to day, it keeps you glued to the ground. You can't shoot for the moon when you're worried about making rent. So I want you to think of this plan like we're building a rocket. And the very first phase is all about gathering the fuel we're going to need for liftoff. So let's get into phase 1, gathering fuel. To build our rocket, we need two fundamental things, money and time. And the very first step is to get as much of both as we possibly can by just ruthlessly slashing our expenses. Hormozy calls this a wartime budget. And believe me, it is extreme. We're talking no eating out, no new clothes, driving a paid-off clunker. I mean, his own story? When he was starting out, he was splitting a single bedroom, paying just a few $100 a month for rent. The whole point is to create these radical savings, freeing up every single dollar you possibly can. Okay, so that's the money. Next, you gather time. And Hormozy is absolutely adamant about this. Your 9-to-5 job is not the problem. The problem is what you do with those 2 4-hour chunks of time you have before and after work. The 5 to 9 a.m. block and the 5 to 9 p.m. block. These are your 2 extra practices every single day that let you get ahead. And here's what that looks like in the real world. You're literally carving out these deep work blocks around your normal day job. And this part is so important. Focus comes from subtraction. It's about removing everything else that doesn't matter during these sacred hours. Now, to get the most out of that time, you have to understand this difference. Maker time is for creating, building, with 0 distractions. An empty calendar is a win. Manager time is for all the other stuff, calls, meetings, decisions. The biggest productivity killer is switching back and forth between these 2 modes. So you have to protect your maker time. Do all your creating, then do all your managing. Okay, so you've gathered your fuel, you've got time, and you've got money. Now it's time for phase 2, building the engine for a rocket. This means using those resources to learn a valuable skill that people will actually pay you for. But which skill? It's so easy to get overwhelmed here. The key is extreme focus. Hormozy's 1-1-1 rule is the perfect guide. 1 product for 1 type of customer, your avatar, using 1 marketing channel. That is it. You just master that 1 single thing. But what does it actually mean to learn something? Well, this right here is a fantastic litmus test. If you're consuming all this content, podcasts, videos, courses, but your day-to-day actions aren't changing, you're not actually learning. Learning is behavior change, period. So how do you change your behavior in the right way? Forget 10,000 hours. Hormozy talks about 10,000 times iterations. It's a feedback loop. First, you just get a ton of volume. Make 100 sales calls, for example. Then, you analyze what the top 10% did that was different from the bottom 90%. You find those key details, you test them, and for your next 100 reps, you do more of what works. And you just repeat that over and over. All right. Fuel, check. Engine, check. You are ready for phase 3, the launch. This is where you start to strategically use the money you saved to generate real income. Hormozy says this basically breaks down into 3 buckets. First, you spend on tools that save you time and give you leverage. Next, you invest in implementation help, things like courses or communities that speed up your learning curve. And finally, you absolutely need a budget for trial attempts. This is your fund for running ads, for experimenting, and for learning from all the failures that are definitely going to happen. And this is why phase 1 was so critical. Look, The business world rewards people for taking calculated risks, but you can't take any risks if you're living paycheck to paycheck. The cash and the time that you saved up, that's your risk capital. That is what lets you launch the rocket. Okay, so let's say it's working. The money is finally starting to come in. We're now at maybe the most important phase of all, and it's where most people fail. It's about not burning up on reentry. You have to keep your lifestyle low.
I mean, this is such a powerful example of the discipline you need. Hormozy was personally earning $20,000 a month. It was still living in that same shared bedroom. He didn't upgrade his car. He didn't get a nicer apartment. He reinvested everything back into growth. But why? Why go to that extreme? I mean, why not enjoy it just a little bit? Well, it comes down to a really fundamental shift in your mindset about what wealth actually is.
And here it is. This is the core idea. You want to be rich, not look rich. The goal isn't $100K in revenue flowing through your business account. The goal, the target, is $100K of cold, hard cash sitting in your bank account. That's the difference between real profit and just posturing. And when you finally combine all these phases, the saving, the learning, the launching, and that intense discipline, you finally hit the goal. This is phase 5. This is achieving escape velocity.
This is the real prize. Hormozy remembers looking at that $100K balance with his wife and realizing they had a 3.5-year runway. They could literally do nothing for years and be perfectly fine. That security, that feeling of freedom from ever worrying about food or shelter again, that's what unlocked the ability to think truly long-term and build something even bigger. And that really brings us to the end. This whole plan, it gets you to the launch pad, and it gets you into orbit. It gives you freedom. So the final question is, once you've escaped the gravitational pull of just trying to survive every day, where are you going?